It's 1871. The thunder of cannon fire fades, the smoke begins to lift, and across the field, a new weapon has made itself known. Not by volume, but by precision. One shot, one soldier down. But the noise didn't come from a Gatling gun nor a massed volley of muskets, but from a single cartridge, a new one. A shiny centerfire hunk of brass flung a massive bullet into the chest of a French line infantryman. And in that moment, everything changed. This wasn't a paper-racked, needle-fired puff of smoke. This was the future. Today, we're cracking open the heavy and smoky story of Germany's first metallic cartridge, as well as their first centerfire cartridge, the 11x60mm R Mauser, as well as the rifle that carried it into battle, the Mauser M71. How do you do, folks, and welcome back to Chambered in History, where we're diving into the story of cartridges that made history themselves. We're cracking open the brass cases and spilling out the history one round at a time. From back-of-the-drawer relics to big-bore bruisers, we're covering a lot of them one round at a time. Today, we're talking about one of the biggest and baddest black powder cartridges of the 19th century, the 11x60mm R Mauser, or otherwise known by its imperial name, the 43 Mauser. This cartridge helped launch Wilhelm and Paul Mauser's careers, unified and modernized the German military, as well as lay the groundwork for the bolt-action revolution. And while we've talked about cartridges that really changed the game, this one wrote the manual. So oil up that bolt and get ready, because we're heading back to the birth of the German Empire and the gun that helped define it. But first, I just want to say thank you so much. Holy crap. I think I checked this morning, 813 subscribers. Mind-blowing. This is insane. I had never expected it to be doing this well. This is just a stupid little channel that I started, and I cannot express my appreciation too much for you people. 12,000 views on the last video. That is amazing. I cannot be more excited. I mean, there's been so many comments, a lot of very supportive comments, some criticizing, and that's fine, but a lot of very supportive comments, people telling me about their collections. It's so cool. It's been awesome. This has been one of the coolest things I've ever done in my entire life, and I'm so happy to be doing it, and I'm really glad that a lot of you really appreciate what I'm doing here. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. You have made this really worth it. It's crazy that we're at this many subscribers already. This is insane. I mean, it absolutely blows my mind. I mean, every day I wake up and there's like 50 more subscribers, and I'm just like, oh my God, what's happening? So I have already started to cut off my family members because I am famous. Figured that's the best thing to do, as well as I'm planning on having a child that I never talk to again because I'm too good for them. And that is all thanks to you guys. So thank you. Let's get back to the episode. But before we talk about bullets, we need to talk about history. In 1871, the German Empire was newly born, fresh off of its overwhelming victory during the Franco-Prussian War. The war had unified fractured Germanic states into one imperial power, and now they were looking to unify something else, their firearms. Up to this point, Prussian troops had relied on the Dreissig needle gun, a pioneering but increasingly obsolete breech loader that fired paper cartridges using a needle-like firing pin. It was revolutionary in the 1840s, but by the 1870s, it had become the punchline of Prussian military jokes. The French, by contrast, were currently using the chassepot, I think that's how you say it, I'm sorry, rifle, which had better range and higher velocities. Despite the German victory, the war had really shined a light on just how far behind the Dreissig needle gun was. Enter Paul Mauser, a precision-obsessed German engineer who had an idea that would change everything: a bolt action paired with a metallic cartridge, reliable, strong, and ready for industrial-age warfare. The 11x60mm R Mauser, also known as the 11.15x60mm R Mauser, the 11mm Mauser, or in freedom units, the 43 Mauser, wasn't the first metallic cartridge, but it was one of the most influential in Europe. So let's break it down. We have the bullet, which was a 11.15mm, or 0.46 to 0.54 inches, depending on the bore. You had the case, which was rimmed and bottleneck centerfire brass. It had a case length of 60 millimeters, hence the name. The bullet weight was anywhere from 370 to 400 grains, usually lead. The powder charge was approximately 77 grains of black powder. Muzzle velocity was sitting around 1,430 feet per second, and overall length was 78 to 80 millimeters, depending on which bullet you had in it. It had massive stopping power, impressive range, and enough case capacity to push that heavy bullet fast enough to punch through soft cover, a military coat, or the occasional cavalryman's bad day. Compared to other cartridges around that time period, like the 4570 or the 577 450 Martini Henry, The 11mm Mauser kind of struck a balance between power and manageability. It wasn't as chunky as the Martini Henry, but it packed way more of a punch than any of the old rimfire or pinfire systems. And while it may not sound fast today, the 1430 feet per second was pretty zippy for black powder. Combined with a bullet the size of a baby's thumb, it could cause some serious trauma downrange. So, quick little comparison, we have the 4570, which was a 405 grain, shooting around 1350 feet per second. You had the 11mm Mauser shooting a 385 grain, so a little bit lighter, but 1430 feet per second, so kind of... I'll have to calculate the muzzle energy and put them up here and see how they kind of stack to each other. I'm guessing they probably just about even each other out. And then we had the 577 450 Martini Henry, which was a 480 grain at 1350 feet per second. I go ahead and assume that one's going to pack the most punch, but again, I'll have them right here so you know. Basically, the 43 Mauser was pretty flat shooting for its time, with the trajectory and energy retention that made it pretty damn deadly out to 600 yards, and marginally effective well past 1,000 yards with volley fire. But being a black powder cartridge, it wasn't all just sunshine and rain clouds. After a few shots, your barrel would be all clogged up and gummed up with soot and fouling, and your shoulder, well, let's just say you'd fired something. Surprisingly, the 11x60mm R Mauser isn't dead. You can still hand load it. As long as you have the right tools and a love for soot, you can do anything, really. Lee Precision makes reloading dies, and brass can either be purchased or even formed from 4590 government cases in a pinch. So here's what the modern shooter would need. You'd need large rifle primers, obviously, soft cast lead bullets, 0.446 to 0.454, depending on the bore, again. Black powder or substitutes like Pyrodex, a shell holder or resizing dies, Lee Precision also sells those, and a serious cleaning regimen, because, again, black powder is nasty. And don't forget the holy trinity of black powder shooting: lube, patience, and more lube. Collectors often remark about how satisfying it is to shoot this rifle, especially when you bang steel out at 200 yards and you feel the shockwave roll back like a little mini cannon. Now, the German Army began issuing the 11mm Mauser cartridge as standard in 1872. The cartridge's reliability and power made it a game changer almost immediately. Soldiers trained to take a careful aim. Unlike the later bolt-action magazine-fed rifles, this was a one-shot affair. You fired, extracted, reloaded, and aimed again. The troops had precision and discipline drilled into their heads like no other. And because the Mauser 1871 was so durable and accurate, the cartridge developed a reputation for being a marksman's cartridge. Infantry units using this combination had a significant advantage over their adversaries who were either using paper cartridges or early rimfires. So now that we've checked out the business end of the 11x60mm R Mauser, let's check out the thing that launched it down the range, the Mauser Model 1871, or the Gewehr 71. Little side note, I know I'm a lot younger than a lot of people that watch my videos, so I used to play Call of Duty World at War. I don't know how many of you did, but you see how this is spelt? Yeah, when you were playing on Derise, you could buy this gun off the wall when you were playing zombies, and I totally called it the Gewehr, and I just think that's funny. I did not know that was what it means rifle, if you didn't know. But I did not know that, and I just kind of think it's funny that I now know it's called the Gewehr, and I used to be like, oh, let me go get the Gewehr. I just thought that was funny, so continuing. But this wasn't just another bolt-action rifle. This was the first unified rifle of the new German Empire, and it marked the birth of one of the most legendary firearms manufacturers in history. See, Paul Mauser and his brother Wilhelm had spent years tinkering with rifle designs and mechanisms. They had submitted several early models to military trials, some successful, some not, but everything would change after the Franco-Prussian War. The Prussian military kind of realized that the paper cartridge dry-sea needle gun just wasn't going to cut it anymore. They wanted something modern, reliable, and preferably not made out of paper mache. Paul Mauser answered that call with a bolt-action rifle that chambered a metallic centerfire cartridge that had a much stronger action and cleaner ignition than the dry-sea ever dreamed of. After passing through several trials, the German Empire officially adopted this rifle in February of 1872, dubbing it the Infantry Gewehr 71. And boom, the Mauser era was born. Now, also, I want to let y'all know that if you really want to get into some really nitty-gritty of these rifles, and this rifle specifically, I actually watched a video by C and Arsenal. That guy is super smart. I mean, I think his video is an hour long, and he goes into a lot of detail on every little part of the rifle itself. Even more in depth, please go check him out. It was awesome watching his video. It was cool seeing his wife shoot the gun because he has all the guns with him. I mean, I just added my first piece of decoration, and it's my rusty 30-30. So I don't know what to do as far as decoration. I don't have posters. I need to get a gun hat. Anyway, sorry. Continuing. So let's break down what made this rifle so special. It was a single shot bolt action. It was chambered in 11 by 60 millimeter R. The barrel length was around 33.5 inches. Overall length was about 53.3 inches. The weight was around 9.5 pounds, give or take, depending on the variant. Action was a bolt with a single locking lug. And the sights were adjustable from 200 to 1,200 yards. And actually, the sights are very cool. Actually, on that CN Arsenal video I told you about, it actually shows you the sight. So it's like a ladder style sight. So you have the ladder laying down, and then you have your kind of shorter range sights. And you have the one sight that's for like 200 or 300 yards. And then behind it, you have another one that you flip up, and it's slightly higher than that one. That one's for like 400 yards. And then you flip up the sight, and it's preset at like 500, I think. And there's like a metal sleeve over it, and you pick it up, and there's actually all the markings on it, and you can kind of change it for what you need. I just thought that was super cool, especially the little flip-up thing. I just thought that was awesome. But anyway, continuing. It was a rugged, durable, no-nonsense rifle, which was exactly what the modern industrial army needed. Now, while the bolt only had one locking lug, it was more than sufficient for the current black powder cartridges. Later, Mauser would go on to improve that with dual lugs, but the M71 kind of proves the concept. This rifle was designed to survive mud, blood, soot, or maybe even a Prussian field cook's over boiled potatoes. And just like any good military rifle, the Gewehr 71 spawned a bunch of variants. We had the Carabiner 71, or the Car 71, a shorter carbine version made for cavalry and artillery units. They pretty much just kind of chopped off some of the barrel to make it easier to use on the back of a horse. You had the Jaeger model, which was issued to sharpshooters and light infantry, which pretty much just had a little bit better sights and a sleeker profile. And then we had the Mauser 7184. Now this is the one that collectors dream about. The Gewehr 7184 had an 8-round Kropatschek style tubular magazine under the barrel, turning the single shot rifle into a repeater. Sorry, I could not pronounce that word. It was adopted in 1884 just in time to compete with the French Lebel model 1886 and the Austrian M1886 Mannlicher. Mannlicher? I have no idea. There is a gun I really want that is called a Mannlicher. Anyway, it's a Steyr. I really want a Steyr, but I can't afford one. Now, while it was still chambered in 11mm Mauser, it could now lay down a string of shots. That's right, Prussian firepower now came with a full mag. Well, sort of. Now, you still had to work the bolt like your life depended on it, but that 8+1 magazine was a massive upgrade. Now, the M71 and the M7184 were shockingly accurate for the day. With skilled shooters, 300 to 400 yards was easily within the danger zone of this rifle, and long-range volley fire could harass troops out past 1,000 yards. Even in the hands of average infantry, it outshot most contemporary rifles thanks to superior sights, high bullet weight, consistent ammunition, and solid steel construction. It wasn't flashy, but it did hit what it aimed at. Now, I know I said all that, but I've also heard some stories that maybe it was a little inconsistent. Some say that the point of impact changes drastically based on the weather you're in. So as long as you're shooting consistently in the same weather, you should be good. As well as shooting enough rounds one after the other could also get the barrel hot and screw with the trajectory. Because this was kind of before we knew about barrel harmonics and knew that we needed a free-floating barrel. So, I mean, yeah, it was accurate for back then, but nowadays it's kind of rough. But they did eventually fix that with some of the later models, and Mauser kind of figured that out. But yeah, it did have some slight issues with consistency as far as the point of impact. But again, as long as you were shooting in consistent conditions, it was pretty accurate. Now let's be honest, this was still the 1870s and black powder fouls everything. So cleaning your barrel after a couple dozen shots was not optional. Troops carried cleaning rods and grease just like they carried ammo. And God help the soldier who didn't clean his rifle after a day on the range. Rust set in faster than you could say Hohenzollern. Now you'd think this cartridge would be tossed in the dustbin with the rest of history that people forget about. But oh no, the 11x60mm Mauser had the legs. The cartridge and its rifle traveled the globe, fought multiple wars, and influenced bolt-action design for decades to come. Now, obviously, the M71 and M71-84 were the standard infantry rifle of the German Empire until the adoption of the Gewehr 88 using the 8mm smokeless round. But even after that, the 11mm Mauser still stuck around for reserves, training, and colonial service. During the Boer Wars, especially the First Boer War, South African Boer commandos used surplus Mauser 1871s with devastating effect. Despite being obsolete, they knew how to use terrain, cover, and the Mauser's accuracy to put British soldiers on their backs. Now, these were the same men who would eventually switch to the 7x57mm smokeless round by Mauser in the Second Boer War. But make no mistake, the 43 Mauser did its fair share of damage first. Uruguay, I don't know. I know the word, it's not coming out of my mouth right. But they officially adopted the M71 in the 1870s, making it one of the first Latin American countries to develop a bolt-action metallic cartridge rifle for national service. Then we had Japan and China, who both acquired small quantities of M71 rifles through surplus sales, European connections, and arms deals. They used these rifles mostly for training use and reserve militia, but it did give the countries a very good familiarity with bolt-action rifles. From Indochina to the Philippines, various paramilitary groups and rebel factions got their hands on surplus Mauser 1871s. In colonial hotspots, it wasn't uncommon to find black powder bolt-action rifles still in use decades after their expiration date. The 11x60mm R Mauser wasn't just a cartridge, it was the cartridge of the gun that started the Mauser dynasty. From here, the Mauser brothers would go on to refine their bolt-action design, mostly adding the dual lug design, create the legendary Car 98K, which saw action across both world wars. Car 98 is awesome. I want one so bad. I want all these guns so bad, but I cannot afford them at all. Maybe one day I can. It would be awesome, but I cannot. Like, I want a rolling block so bad. And a Sharps, oh, so bad. But anyway, sorry. As well as influence every bolt-action hunting rifle for 100 years to come. See, these right here, that's the dual locking lugs. This is the bolt out of that one that I showed you. I don't know why I didn't think to show you this, but yeah, these are the dual locking lugs here. And yeah, so, but this gun only had one, but I just wanted to show you that that is dual locking lug. I don't know how to focus this crap, but yeah. And all of this, and I mean all of it, started with the black powder 43 caliber single shot bolt action rifle. And believe it or not, you can still shoot these bad boys today. Thanks to companies like Lee Precision, like I mentioned earlier, you can buy reloading dies, resize modern brass like 4590, like I mentioned earlier, to create 11mm Mauser cases, cast your own soft lead bullets, load them up with black powder like Pyrodex, and blast targets with 150-year-old technology. Collectors and historical shooters rave about the satisfying recoil, muzzle smoke, and nostalgic craftsmanship of the Mauser 1871. It's like firing history with every shot. So let's be honest, how many other rounds do we really have that can let us tag a steel plate out at 200 yards while simultaneously filling the air with enough smoke to summon a Civil War reenactment? So what can we take away from this story? The 11x60mm R Mauser was Germany's first modern centerfire metallic cartridge, a battlefield equalizer in the late 19th century, the beginning of the Mauser family's firearm legacy, and a surprisingly capable hunting and target round even today. And while it may not have quite had the range of modern rifles like the one I just showed you, or even the speed of a lever action like the one back there, it did exactly what it was needed to do, and it did it well. But this cartridge didn't just support the birth of a rifle, it helped define a military doctrine, a global brand, and an era of engineering that still echoes today. So there you have it, folks, the 11x60mm R Mauser, a round so big that it kicked off an entire empire and a legacy all in one shot. From the Prussian battlefields to the plains of Africa, this cartridge wasn't just a product of its time, it defined its time. So if you learned something today, please hit that like button like it owes you cleaning patches, and subscribe to Chambered in History, where we're going over the story of cartridges that made history themselves. So if you're interested in our ballistic time travel through the weird, wild world of old school rounds, come along with us. Usually I would tell you what we're going to do next time, but I've decided to leave it a little more open-ended. My next round was the 5090, and I don't know. I'm going to have to look into it. I don't know really how much history I can drum up for just the 5090. I mean, I kind of feel like I might need to lump in a lot of the big 50s, you know. It kind of feels like specifically this video, I know this one pretty much just became about the Mauser 1871. I kind of feel like that's kind of where this channel is going to wind up going, because there's not that much information about some rounds, and I would like to go over a lot of the pretty important ones, but a lot of them are going to wind up just being about the rifle, and that's fine. I can understand why I need to do that. It's just I started with telling y'all I was doing it about the cartridges, but some of them are going to be more just about the rifle itself, because some of them it was just they made a rifle, so they made a bullet to go with it, and that's pretty much it. And while yes, there's a lot of engineering that goes into making these cartridges, a lot of it just isn't as important as the actual rifle itself. So, that's kind of where we're going to wind up shifting and stuff. So until then, keep your brass polished and your powder dry, and we'll catch y'all next time. Thank you.